everybody. The tripod's a bit broken. Welcome back to my breathing sessions. It's Friday, hooray! Another day and we're still breathing. So we're just gonna start, just arrange this a bit better. So we're just going to start by standing with our feet hip distance apart. The way that we find that is to feel around, find the actual hip bone. We're going to point our fingers down where the hip bone is. Hi Simon, thanks for coming. So we're going to find our hip bones, point our fingers down. We want our big toe to be sort of roughly underneath the hip where we're pointing. Weight equally distributed between the big toe, the outside toe, the outside of your foot, and the heel. And we want our knees to be slightly bent, or, I mean, if you're one of these people that's able to have completely straight legs and not lock them tight and have a load of tension, good for you, I'm very jealous. But for me personally, if I have completely straight legs, I always end up locking my knees and then I get that tension there. So if you need to have your knees slightly bent, that's absolutely fine. Just as long as you don't have the tension there, then it doesn't matter. String coming out of the top of our heads. Hopefully that will help get your head in the right position. Nice long neck, nice straight spine, chin down, shoulders down. And we're just going to make sure that there isn't, I'll just turn that around a bit. Make sure that there's nothing that we can bang our hands on. We're just going to swing from our hips, but we're going to just have our arms be completely floppy, and they're just going to spin round with the momentum of us turning from our hips. And hopefully what this is going to do is warm us up, maybe get rid of some of the creaks in our bones and muscles. We want to try and keep the nice straight spine. I'm noticing I'm pretty terrible at staying nice and straight, but you know, that's okay. As long as, because I'm aware of it, that means I'm now able to try and do something about it. And you know, it takes time because we're sort of retraining our bodies. It's very good, and shake it out. And you know, you just sometimes just being aware of the problem corrects it on its own, and sometimes, you know, it can take years sometimes to sort of get your muscles to do exactly what you want them to do. So the important thing is, as and when you notice all your bad habits creeping in, and you know, you probably will, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, because it's if the bad habits are there, it's better that you know about them and then you can do something. So as and when you notice them, you know, don't get stressed, don't beat yourself up about it, just relax, try and relax that section of your body and just be mindful of it, and you know, maybe give that bit of your body an extra bit of work. So speaking of which, we all have slightly different places that we hold our tension. For me, if you've watched any of my sessions before, you'll know that my shoulders are a particularly bad place for me. Also, I tilt my head back quite a lot. And I have all sorts of other problems as well, but what I'm trying to do is each week go through a different body part, so that wherever you personally are holding your tension, hopefully eventually at some point we'll get to all the different body parts. And like I said before, if anybody has any particular exercises that they find specifically helpful, send me a message, because I'd love to include them. So this week we're kind of traveling down the arm. So what we're going to do is we're going to have our thumb on that sort of part of the back of the opposite hand, and then we're just going to sort of gently pull it. So you should feel the stretch kind of along your wrist here. Be as gentle with yourself as you need to. I mean, obviously we're trying to stretch, and shake it out and do the other side. So the thumb pressing against the back of the opposite hand and just pulling it. You know, obviously we're trying to stretch, so you know, a little bit of being outside your comfort zone and shake it. Isn't necessarily a bad thing, but you've got to know your own body. The last thing we want to do is hurt ourselves or do anything damaging. So just, you know, listen to your body and don't push it too hard, but try and gauge how hard to push it, because we don't want to be lazy, but we also don't want to hurt ourselves. Okay, so now we're going to go stop with one hand, turn it around, then bring the other hand all the way across to grab that sort of fleshy part of your kind of thumb muscle, and then you're just gently going to pull it round so that we're doing that little sort of twisty stretch. And shake it out. Then the other side, stop, turn your hand around, bring your other hand over and across, grab the fleshy part, and just, you know, with the heel of your opposite hand, you're going to press in, just again gently pull, don't want to do any harm, and then shake it out. Very good. So we're just going to open and close our hands, our fingers, and then we're going to bring our arms up. All the while we're going to, I'm just bending my knees to show you because I can't angle my camera, but you don't have to bend your knees, or you can if you want to. But we're just going to continue opening and closing our hands all the way up and all the way down. And as usual, you know, we want to try, I have a tendency, as I said already, my shoulders, you know, so I'm trying very hard to, as I bring my arms up, try and keep my shoulders down so that I'm not causing that sort of strain. And one more time, and down. Very good. And shake it out. Okay, excellent. So now we're going to turn our attention to our breathing a little bit. So again, if you've seen any of my sessions before, you'll already know that your diaphragm is a big muscle that sits just under your rib cage. So if you don't know exactly where that is, you can kind of feel around, find those bottom ribs, you can sort of feel the bones. And so just sitting underneath is like a sort of tarpaulin, a big kind of sheet. And that's the muscle that we use to breathe, and it's called the diaphragm. So what I want you to do, unlike normal, when you think of breathing, you think you take in a breath and then you sort of relax and sigh it out. I want you to flip that on its head. I want you to do the reverse of that. So I want you to be thinking, when you're breathing out, that's the muscular part. That's when your diaphragm is pushing to squeeze the air out of your lungs. And then when you're going to breathe in, instead of actively taking in the breath, you're just going to relax and drop the diaphragm, and the air is just going to suck back in. So that the muscular part is to push the air out, and then the relaxation part is to drop the diaphragm and allow the air to suck back in. So in a minute, we're going to add some arm movements that are going to reflect that. And it does feel counterintuitive, especially when you first come at it, because our natural feeling to relax is, but it is the opposite, or I want you to try and think of it as the opposite, and it's really hard at first to get your head around it, but we want to push the air out and then relax and drop and just allow the air to flood back in like a sort of hydraulics system. So in a minute we're going to add the arm movements. So on the out breath we bring our arms up, our hands up, like this, and that sort of represents the diaphragm pushing the air out. Then when we breathe in, we're going to relax, drop the diaphragm, and the hands are going to come down like this to represent dropping the diaphragm. And then we're going to bring our arms up, and that's going to represent our rib cage expanding as our lungs fill with air. So first of all, we're just going to get into a nice little rhythm, and we're just going to breathe, and we're going to try, if you're able to visualize your diaphragm pushing and your lungs getting squeezed and the air coming out, that's absolutely fantastic. Not everyone is able to visualize things in their mind. It doesn't matter. Just try it in whatever way it makes sense for your mind. Try and imagine it. If you're squeamish about your own internal organs, I know some people are, you can think of it as being balloons getting squeezed, or I quite like the idea of the bellows pushing the air out and then dropping and the air coming back in, but whatever works for you. So you're just going to be getting into your own little rhythm. we're going to bend and straighten our legs, so feet hip distance apart. I don't want any jerky bending and straightening, and again, if you want to keep your knees slightly bent, even when your legs are straight, that's absolutely fine. So we're just going to get into a little rhythm, think of our breathing, then we're going to add the arms. So out and in, and push and relax, and push and relax, and squeeze and open the rib cage. Make sure you bend your knees in between. And we'll go to the side on the next one. And shake it out. Okay, so we're going to stand with our feet hip distance apart again. Nice string coming out of the top of our head like a marionette puppet. Nice long neck, long spine, nice and straight, shoulders down, knees slightly bent if need be, weight equally distributed between your big toe, the outside of your foot and your heel. If you want to sit down for this one, that's absolutely fine. Still remember the sort of fundamental idea of the posture. So in a way, if you're in this standing position and then you have the chair and you just sit down. So I don't want you to hold your knees together and I don't want you to cross your legs, just nice and open, exactly as we are now, but sitting. It's up to you if you want to stand or sit, it doesn't matter. And so we're now just gonna find a spot on the wall which is hopefully as close to our own eye level as possible. Ideally, if you're able to be looking in the mirror, that's perfect, because then not only can you look into your own eyes, because they're exactly the right height, but you're also more conscious of what your body looks like. When you have these sort of bad habits that you might have had for years or decades even, you know, for me, if sometimes my shoulder starts sort of creeping up, and that feels normal to me, so it's only when I can see myself here, I'm like, wow, that's really, you know, lopsided, or sometimes both shoulders come up, but, you know, it feels fine. So if you don't have a mirror, that's still okay, but just try and be extra mindful of what's happening. And like I said before, as and when the bad habits creep in, just relax, just, you know, try and correct them gently. Sometimes it takes a while to, you know, to just get it into your muscles, and that's okay. There's no point in getting stressed about it, because the whole purpose of all of this is to get the stress out of your body. Okay, so we're just going to channel the breath to our spot. You can start in your own time. What I want you to do is, as you're pushing the breath out, I want you to really focus in your mind's eye on squeezing the air out of your lungs by pushing with your diaphragm. Then when you get to the end of the breath, I want you to just try and push a little bit more. There's almost always more air than you think there's going to be. Sometimes it helps to put your hands on your ribs and actually physically, you know, push with your arms. Especially before your diaphragm is strong, you know, just to make sure, and you'll be amazed how much air is actually left in your lungs. So then when you finally get to the end, I want you to just try and hold it as long as you can. Like we said already, you know, we don't want to push it if you feel lightheaded or uncomfortable or anything, you know, stop, be more gentle on yourself. But ideally, you know, you're going to hold it once you've got rid of all the air. So then, when you're finally ready to take your in-breath, you're not going to take the in-breath, you're just going to relax, allow the diaphragm to drop, and let the air suck back in. So everything that we're trying to do is the reverse of what we think we want to do. We don't want to take the breath in and relax to breathe out. We want to engage the muscles, push the air out, and then relax. and drop for the air to come back in. And all the while correcting your posture as and when you need to. Very good. And when you come to the end of whatever breath you're on, we're going to switch to a sound. So I don't want any, because then you're preventing, you know, if the space is too small, you're not able to push the air out properly. So nice and open kind of shape. Very good, and shake it out. And we're going to do a nice big stretch and a yawn. Feel that nice open throat. That's sort of a very good feeling for singing. So if the purposes of you doing these breathing exercises is to improve your singing, think of that yawn, open throat. That's a very good position for singing. Okay, so we're going to get back into our comfortable position, thinking of our posture, string out the top of our head, shoulders down, nice long neck, knees slightly bent, feet hip distance apart. Even if you're sitting, don't cross your legs, don't hold your knees together, just nice and relaxed. We just want everything, we don't want to use any muscles that we don't need to use because it's a waste of energy. And we're just going to breathe, get into a nice normal rhythm with our breathing. So you don't need to hold it or anything like this, but I do want you to be thinking of the diaphragm pushing upwards and then relaxing and dropping down for the air to suck back in, and then pushing and relaxing. You can breathe through your nose or your mouth, whatever's comfortable, or a combination of both, but just be focusing on engaging the diaphragm to push the air out of your lungs, and then relax, drop the diaphragm, the lungs automatically fill with air and the rib cage expands. So I just want to, in your own time, just close your eyes and really just focus on your diaphragm, pushing the air out, relaxing, dropping, allowing the air to flood back into your lungs, and then pushing again to squeeze the air out of your lungs, and just relaxing, dropping, and the air flooding back into your lungs. And now I just want you to listen to all the sounds you can hear outside the room that you're in. And you're going to concentrate on whatever you can hear. It might be the wind blowing, it might be cars driving past, might be the very loud radio from the builders next door. Whatever you can hear from outside the room, you're going to concentrate on that and you're going to listen. And all the thoughts and other things in your mind and other sounds in the room that you're in, whatever else, you'll hear them, but you won't listen to them. They're just going to melt away. And you're just going to listen and concentrate on the sounds outside the room you're in. And all the while you're going to push with your diaphragm to squeeze the air out of your lungs. And then you're going to relax. The diaphragm is going to just fall down and your lungs are going to fill with air. Pushing with your diaphragm to squeeze the air out of your lungs. Then relax. Drop the diaphragm and just allow the air to flood back in. And now I want you to take a step closer and you're just going to listen to all the sounds you can hear inside the room that you're in. So it might be a clock ticking, might be a radiator buzzing. Whatever you can hear inside the room that you're in, you're going to listen to that, concentrate on that, and all the while pushing with your diaphragm to squeeze the air out of your lungs, and then relax. Drop the diaphragm and allow the air to flood back in. closer and put your mind into just listening to your own body. So you might be able to hear your heart beating, you might hear yourself breathing, you might be completely silent, and then you're going to listen to that silence, and all the while you're going to push with your diaphragm to squeeze the air out of your lungs, and then just relax, drop the diaphragm and just allow the air to flood back in. Very good. So now I want you to continue pushing with your diaphragm to squeeze the air out of your lungs. Then relax. Drop the diaphragm and just allow the air to flood back in. But now I want you to put all of those things together. So I want you to listen to your body, the room that you're in, and the space beyond the room that you're in. And you're just going to listen to everything that's happening in your presence, and you're going to feel your connection to the space that you're in, all through pushing with your diaphragm to squeeze the air out of your lungs, then relaxing, dropping the diaphragm and just allowing the air to flood back in. Fantastic, well done everybody, excellent session. Let me just grab my ukulele because we're going to finish today's session as usual with our traditional little sing-along. So this week's song is The Tide is High. We're going to need to think of a song for next week, so if you've got any suggestions, leave a message afterwards. I've got the lyrics, I've got a link to the lyrics in the description, so I'll just give you a minute to find those if you need them. So whilst we're singing, we want to try and put this breathing technique into practice. So as we're singing out, we're pushing with our diaphragm, and then when we need to take the breath in for the next phrase, we're just going to relax, drop the diaphragm, and just allow our lungs to fill with air. We're going to try and have a good posture, and as we notice things going wrong, we're going to try and just relax and correct them. Thank you so much for joining me today. I know some people can't join live. Thank you, Simon. I know some people have to watch it back later, so I really appreciate that. And special thank you to everybody who is donating via my Patreon and PayPal, because it really helps me keep going. Please don't feel obligated. It's enough for me that you're here, but special thank you to everybody who is involved with that. Okay, hopefully you've got the lyrics now, so let's get started. It's just D, G, A, for anyone who's got an instrument. The tide is high, but I'm holding on. I'm gonna be your number one. The tide is high, but I'm holding on. I'm gonna be your number one. Number one. Number one. It's not the things you do that tease and hurt me back, but it's the way you do the things you do to me. I'm not the kind of girl who gives up just like that. Oh no, the tide is high, but I'm holding on. I'm gonna be your number one. Number one. Number one. Every girl wants you to be her man, but I'll wait right here until it's my time. I'm not the kind of girl who gives up just like that. Oh no, the tide is high, but I'm holding on. I'm gonna be your number one. The tide is high, but I'm holding on. I'm gonna be your number one. Number one. Number one. Thank you so much. I will be back next week, 11 AM Greenwich Mean Time, with a new song. So hopefully I will see you again soon. In the meantime, have a great Friday and have a great weekend. And thank you so much for joining me. Lots of love. Bye.